it says we are live. It says we are live. So let's hope so. Okay, so hello everyone, and hello, this is Sing Saber. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Sing Saber. I am a rapper and a tarot reader, and you can check me out on YouTube on Saber Tarot, open for readings right now, and we are going to be doing a reading for Clare today.
Unreal. Yeah, we are live. And please let me know in the chat if you can't hear us or anything. We had a lot of trial and error. Thank you so much for your patience, Sing Saber, and we eventually got there. We're pretty sure both of our audios are coming through. So yeah, let us know in the chat if there's any issues. People will start filtering in now shortly. But if you're happy to just jump in, we'll just jump in and go for it.
Yeah, so usually how this works is we start off with a general reading, and I'll kind of go off on what I see in the cards, and feel free to interject with any details or questions that you'd like to add. I won't really be able to show the full reading with the webcam, but I can pick up individual cards and show them to the camera.
Sounds good.
And have you had a reading before?
No, not really. Like, my mother used to mess around with tarot cards, but and so did I, but no, I've never had a proper reading.
Okay, so today I am pulling out the cards. We're working with the classic Celtic cross. And this deck we are using here is the Osho Zen Tarot. So first off, what I see here is there's a bit of a challenge going on, and the challenge is here to help you find your inner strength and come back from a place of exhaustion or difficulty. We have literally the card of exhaustion right here. And this is going into a place of letting go of control. And the control card here is a mental card going into a card representing burden. So this means in order to lift this burden up and let go of your own personal control, this is how you gain back control. And it's not through fighting, it's through seeing yourself as an outsider would see your own life. So it's a change of perspective. And the way that this change of perspective happens is looking back in times in your life where you may have felt a little more, a little less innocent about things, maybe a little more cynical about things, and seeing where that has led your mind to hold on to these burdens, and really the inner voice and the higher guidance. So that's the intuition of that voice, that conscience, that like little Jiminy Cricket voice inside of you that's always telling you what to do. This will let you let go of this burden and this sorrow that's held on to mentally and have an inner rebirth. And this will let you see your life in a new perspective, and it'll let you access a new sort of strength, which that strength has always been with you for a really long time. But this is a new opportunity for it to grow forth, and it is a strength that comes from difficulty. If you can see this card a bit here, this is courage, and this is the strength card. And so you can see that this little flower, this dandelion here, is growing up from the roughness of the rock. And here's the outcome card. So this is where this mental test is leading to you to, and this is a card of earth energy. So this is reconnecting you to the earth, the inner child, who you see yourself as, how you feel to be as a person. And when you reconnect with this inner child, this innocence from the past, the healing of that inner child will allow you to see your life in a completely different way. And this also has to do with the Fool card, with the Fool representing infinite potential. this is not necessarily a huge change, but it is at the same time. A lot of the change comes through with how you mentally process and look at your life, and how you understand the relationship to this mental energy. And I keep saying that because there's 4 swords cards here, or in this deck, which is clouds, and those represent the mental energy. So the intelligence, the thoughts, and the difficulties that we traverse and that we pass through. And these types of cards, the way we transcend that is through letting go of control, letting go of thinking, and just accessing that inner strength of action and higher guidance, and seeking for a different way out. Because that's why these challenges come, because we get to a point of strength, and then finding your way out of the challenges, a lot of times we do need to use our mind for that, but at the same time, your mind can only take you so far, to the point where you have to surrender to the circumstances and really this heart energy and the guidance around you. There's a very powerful male energy that is helping you here as well.
I just quickly interrupt you there because we've had a few people join the chat, so hello to everyone in the chat. And just maybe, I realised we never actually introduced you properly, so would you like to introduce yourself and tell everyone, what you do?
Yeah, and I'm Cinch Saber, a tarot reader and rapper, and I've been recently doing a new YouTube channel called Saber Tarot, and I just do readings up there, and right now I'm just looking for more people to read for. So if anyone sees this and is interested, mention Clare and you get a 50% discount on your reading, so you get a reading for $20 US. And I'm just pulling out some more cards here.
Yeah, so Saber is doing my tarot reading. Also, we've just recorded a Storytime podcast, so in a couple of weeks there will be a podcast where Saber tells all of his, what would you call them, supernatural kind of experiences?
Yeah, supernatural, spiritual experiences. It was a deep part of my spiritual journey, but a lot of people would call them supernatural.
Yeah. So that's what's happening. And then keep an eye out or an ear out, I suppose, for that podcast. But sorry, continue, please. This is very interesting.
Well, as I look at the next cards here, we can see that it is a transition period. And so this is fire energy, which is your heart, meaning what makes you feel alive, what you desire, what makes you feel connected to yourself, your environment, and others. And as this mental energy passes through, it keeps on showing me that it's about focusing less on your thoughts and more on your feelings and what makes you feel truly strong and alive. And this will help you let go of some of the things from the past. And again, I mentioned right before, we have a very strong male figure here who tends to, this looks like a relationship, it tends to be someone who is a little bit less mature than you, but also someone very lively who brings you forth with adventuring kind of energy. But right now things have shifted and you're actually helping him bring forth that energy and helping reinvigorate his relationship to excitement and youthfulness.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that's my husband. That's why I'm laughing. Because you described him down to a T, but also it's good to know that I'm helping him now.
Well, I'll show you the cards that represent the two of you here. So we have you as being the Queen of Wands, and see, there you are with this kitty cat, the flower, holding the staff. And we have him in the new circumstances as being the Knight of Wands. So of course the Knight works for the Queen. He's here riding off, but he's actually reversed in the reading like this. And so here's the two of you also right here in the heart of the reading. So your personal world, see this monarch figure here. It's kind of hard to see, but he's holding the earth in his hands, and then this is represents you and your husband, these two staffs, but it also represents being in transition to things. And so what we also see is after that two of staffs or two of wands, it doubles and there's a celebration card here. This is a wedding kind of card. So renewing that energy that helps bond you together. That's what this challenge here is bringing. You can see these characters are celebrating. So it's essentially saying, let him go through whatever he's going through in his own self-image and let him struggle with it. It's not about forcing him to do anything. It's about letting things fall into place. But the part that you can play is the outer force of sitting back like the queen does and just providing the example of what it means to be someone who's both relaxed and passionate at the same time. And when you provide that example for him, it will let him just be free to be himself and to rekindle that youthful energy, because it will come back. And we can see that in the Temperance card and the outcome. And what the Temperance card means, this is the universe coming in, the circumstances coming in and taking the two of you and the environment and making it into a new, it's a renewal. And so it's a really good energy and it's a feeling of connectedness, but there has to be that sense of him struggling with this idea of youthfulness, that he wants to be in this energy of a teenager or a 20-year-old, and that's okay, but that's not going to fully work for him at the same time. And in order for him to rekindle that energy, you just have to be there for him.
Okay. Interesting.
And it's not about forgetting the past, but there is some past stuff here that needs to be let go of. And again, it's not forgetting it. It's seeing that there were certain things that you've gotten through together and individually as well that can be held onto in the heart, and it can feel like there's a big stage that was gotten past, but at the same time it wasn't. And at the same time there was sometimes not being fully honest with yourselves, but that was in the past, and that's not something that's really needs to be dealt with in the same way. It's right now focusing on the present, and there's a positive card when it comes to working, at least an influence of something that went well in regards to working and money, and that's moving into the decisions that you're making now. Okay, and we can see what else we get here, and also if you have any specific questions that you would like to ask, the tarot can answer those very directly usually. So yeah, I'll take out another reading here, and also just keep in mind, let me know if there's any specific questions that you have for the cards.
Do I have to ask the question out loud, or can I just think it?
Either way, whatever makes you feel more comfortable. Sometimes if you ask it out loud, I can know the question and answer it a little more directly. But at the same time, if I don't know the question, then you can get a different kind of read on it, and it's a little more intuitive that way. So it's completely up to you.
Yeah, maybe just do one more, and then I'll pose a question.
So we've gotten two of the same cards here, and so we've gotten the Temperance card again, which means multiple forces coming together and just creating a new period in your life and passing through some trials and tribulations. And there's a card of some broken glasses here, which means a little bit of difficulties and the ability to transcend those, the ability to take this as a metamorphosis. As we see, we have, this is the Wild Unknown Tarot, we have this beautiful butterfly which is in its cocoon surrounded by these swords. And as I mentioned, a lot of swords cards are coming up. They represent mental energy, thoughts, cognitions, self-image, those things that our mind is always saying about ourselves, and we tend to identify with them as the truth. And so in the past, you've been able to really use your mind to extract the very morsel of things. And so your mind has been very powerful and precise. So you can see this is the two sides of your mind, going down and extracting that morsel of truth or opportunity. Now times are changing. Now is a time where you're going to be challenged to follow your heart. And again, this is what I said in the first reading. And although that work card was positive in the previous reading, it shows this is a continuing challenge, and that it's kind of centered as a mountain that you're traversing. That's the way it's showing this idea of earth energy, which means working, money, physical body. It's like a mountain that you're climbing up and down of these peaks and valleys, and we can see that here in the challenge of literally the mountain right there. And these things are here to get you in touch with your self-image. And when I say self-image, this is talking about you as what makes you feel at home, what makes you feel a part of something greater. And this is all the different pieces in your life cementing into I'll show it to you right here. See how all these different pentacles, these are the coins that represent the physical aspects of your life, belongings, and your physical body. What's going on right now, even though it does seem difficult and things are adjusting, all of it is happening for a reason. And of course, that's a cliche that, all this happens for a reason. And it can get really tiresome sometimes, but that's what it's saying, that as these different energies fall into place, you're passing through a portal here, literally. This part of your life is here to transform you, as you can see with these wands here, as we pass through this into another area. And in that case, you'll have to sacrifice part of your mind in a good way, but it's difficult when we make sacrifice. This part of your mind is like we spoke about in the other reading, a renewal of who you are and how you view yourself in your thoughts and in your thinking. And if you're able to let go of that mental image of yourself and it's built up with thoughts, then this rebirth will be a lot easier for you, and it will come with some emotional disappointments. And I think that's already been taking place, and that's okay. Again, it's like what your husband is going through with his idea of youthfulness and excitement. These emotional disappointments can seem heartbreaking and can seem difficult, but they're here to help not sharpen your mind, but almost dull your mind in a positive way, to where you can recapture this innocence. And it's an inner child energy, again, capturing this childlike energy and bringing it back into your life. And it's almost the difficulties are a ritual for that to happen, to bring it forth to where you can be standing proud and like it's something from the past. It's a time period, if you look back, when you felt the most proud and happy. That's what you're trying to recapture. And that can be negative in some people's lives, but I see this as a positive thing of recapturing that. And that's why it's interesting that your husband is going through something similar. It's different at the same time. So it's your own personal journey of recapturing that. And looking back at when you were a kid or a teenager and thinking, what made you feel really happy and fulfilled and able to just stand up proud and genuinely, and understanding the different ways that you can get back to there, or not get back there, but let that come out in a new way, because it's always been a part of you. It's ready for it to come out. And again, it's a broken record, but the way that comes out, letting go of the thoughts and the thinking, letting go of the mental imagery and the way that your mind perceives yourself is real. but it's also fake at the same time. It's not even to say that the mind is wrong in those perceptions. It's just to say that those have been very powerful, the way you see yourself in your mind, and it can be let go of, but it stays as a almost a guard for you. It's not as deeply held personally. It stretches out, and these self images can be played with a little bit more and expand.
Interesting. Right, so will I ask you the question now, or?
Yeah, anytime. The readings are very fluid, so anytime you want to cut in, because I can be, go on about all of this stuff, and it is, it is difficult to do a reading sometimes for a new person, especially over a platform. But yeah, just go ahead and ask whatever you'd like, and I'll do my best to see what the cards are saying.
Yeah, so I'll just say as well, guys, leave whatever you want in the chat if you guys have any questions, or if you're recognizing anything, just shout in the chat. Chat's very quiet. But I suppose the question that I feel like you've already kind of answered this question, to be honest, just with the sort of things you were saying. But I guess my question would be around like moving on to the next phase of life, and if that is something that is going to happen for us, I guess, because we're looking to move on, just basically move on to the next phase of life, maybe become parents, that kind of thing. So is that something that might happen soon, or?
Yeah, I did see an actually really strong card about being a parent, and it didn't show that it was going to be something very soon, but something to really focus on, and really that it's in your court, and the idea of that free will and that control and letting go of it at the same time. It's hard to talk about, but it's the right amount of release and control, because as human beings we see things very dualistically, of we either need to control everything or let go of everything. What it's showing, in order to get into that point of making a deeper progression, is that seeing life right now with a little bit more playfulness and joy, and cultivating that. And so I'll show you the card right here that communicates that. So you can see this is your character here, and this is the main card, is dancing and being playful, but it is reversed in the reading, showing that heart energy of what's making you feel alive, looking back on some of the lessons that you've learned. And so we also have, in the challenge to that, is a card of healing. So you can see this person is relaxed and has the healing hands over them. And so these are cards that are beyond the mind. So we have the fire energy, which is the desire and really love. And again, the fire energy is what makes you feel alive, what makes you feel passionate and in movement. And then the healing energy is just that. It's healing of where in your body is there still trauma from the past. Because again, I'm getting that in order to bring forth new life and to enter into this new stage, there is still some stuff from the past that needs to be dealt with, the healing of the inner child again. And that is looking back on times where you felt separate, the times when you felt isolated, and the way that you can connect out of that in the present. It's what's called soul retrieval. It's looking back on these times that were hurtful and where it feels like there was a piece of you missing, and rekindling that with joyfulness in the present. And it can seem like a fight sometimes to do that, because a lot of times, especially now in these difficult times we face, it's harder and harder than ever to be joyful and to bring forth that playful energy, but that makes it more important than ever. And so here's where that card of burdens comes in again, of looking at yourself and seeing yourself with a new possibility, because we have an interesting synchronicity here. We have two possibilities that are shown to you. And so we have, I'll do one at a time. We have, this is the 10 of Wands, this is the second time this has come up, so this is suppression. These are the things that are being held back. So you can see this character is chained to these roots, but also has the beautiful clouds and sky above them. But then on the other side of things, we have a much more beautiful card. So this is the Ten of Cups. So you can see these dolphins are coming up from her heart energy. So this is a card of feelings and peace. And so the other one is more anger and resentment, but here we have the middle in between the two cards. So as this comes into focus, this is beyond illusion. Although this is a different deck, we have the same archetype of the butterfly. So you can see instead of the butterfly being cocooned up with the swords around them, this butterfly is flowing freely and is really opening up the third eye of this character here, showing that it's literally called beyond illusion. That's what the third eye represents, is seeing beyond this dichotomy. It's not about the darkness of the suppression card or the perfectness of the harmony card. It's that these are the two sides, the two wings that your life flies upon, just like the butterfly needing both wings. And this is something that everybody goes through. We want to hold on to the perfect harmony times, and we want to run away from the times where there is more suppression. And so when you can really see beyond those two sides and see that it's just kind of part of the play of the world, that we need the dark times and we need the happy times. And you're definitely seeing that. I'm not saying this is anything new. It's a reminder of that, and seeing that those two things add up together, because the harmony and the suppression card were both 10s, and this beyond illusion is 20. So that's the numerology there. They add up to the full picture. And so through this two-pronged approach, fighting through things mentally, because you have a very strong mind, fighting through it mentally, that comes naturally to you. But where to cultivate the other end of it is the openness and playfulness of the heart. And this is something that your husband is helping you to learn, and you're helping him to learn both. So he's helping you more with the heart. You're helping him with his mind and his heart. And so that's thinking and loving. And so this will be an intense period, but when you really are able to move on to the next stage, as was the original question that you asked, when this slows down, when you feel like this intensity of going on all these cylinders and focusing and being busy slows down, when you can just kind of take a look at your life, and like this tortoise card here, this is the outcome card. That's the answer, the way out, when you can slow down and see your life in a new way and kind of see both the beauty and the wreckage of what has happened and just slowly walk on from that.
Wow. That's really interesting. It's really in depth as well.
And part of that too is, and this is a deep lesson, it may not be something that's constantly up, but the idea of comparing yourself to others in moving past these things, that you've gotten to a point where it may have been okay to do that in the past with people you've grown up with or peers or whatever, just anyone who would be a comparison to yourself. That was okay in the past, because people start off almost more similar and grow off into having a very unique life. So it's letting go of that sense of comparison and understanding we all have a unique life, and you can't even compare yourself to your husband at this point, that you're very unique individuals, even though you share a lot in common, that you can't compare yourself to anyone. It's just the uniqueness of appreciating that and seeing yourself in a playful kind of way.
Okay. It makes sense.
And do you have any more questions, or you can have a specific area of your life that you want to look at, or we can also just see what else is here in the cards.
I suppose I don't have a specific question. Maybe I play sport, so be interesting to know about that, but I've no specific question per se.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a question. The sport would be a good intention, because sometimes when I do readings, for myself or others, we'll just go in with a specific intention of, I want to know more about this, because I don't always ask a lot of questions. I'm more seeking guidance from the tarot. It's not really meant to tell the future. It can and it does, but it also doesn't always end up being accurate. To me, it's about seeking the higher lesson of things and the meaning behind the events in our lives, because we all know that our lives are very meaningful, even though sometimes they don't always seem meaningful. There is so much meaning in our lives, and the tarot helps us to access. Now, is this a dangerous sport?
It's not supposed to be, but I make it dangerous.
Because here's one of the main cards, and this is your view of things. So this is one of the more destructive cards, the Tower. This isn't talking about the sport. This is saying exactly what you were saying of making it into something more dangerous. And what it's saying you're learning here with the sport is, when you're in the moment, it lets you forget that the world is existing and lets you access this deep, strong feminine energy, because we have the two strongest female cards in the deck here. We have the High Priestess, which is the card I spoke of in one of the first readings. This is the higher guidance. And then we also have the Empress. This is the Empress. This is the earth energy. And so, of course, the physicalness of the sport is what makes it alluring, but because you have such a strong mind, and even times you've learned to hold your mind back, the alluringness of the sport is that you get to completely forget about your mind and your body, even though you definitely utilize your mind and the body heavily in the sport. It's about this oneness that you're seeking. And it's funny, there's a spirituality that you're seeking within the sport. And when I say spirituality, I don't mean, stuffy religion and that sort of stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You're seeking the excitement and the feeling of being alive, and you're learning a new relationship towards judgment, and that means how you see yourself. And this is different than the judgment we talked about earlier. It's different than the mental image of yourself that we talked about earlier. This is almost judgment in the eyes of Creator, the judgment in the eyes of the universe or God, of how it's a celebratory thing for you. It's where all these different aspects of your life can come together, and through them there's also a feeling of connection. Obviously, that's why we go to sports, we have this mind-body connection, we have this ability to forget. That's an important aspect. But the other big aspect of it is it helps you to feel less alone and feel a part of something. And so those are two places where actually healing is taking place within this. It's a passionate thing for you, and almost what it's saying is you're free to put more emotion into it, and not the type of emotion that makes it dangerous, the type of emotion that makes it fulfilling. And it's almost saying you have permission to do that, and if you seek for that, this will help you with this rebirth that you're experiencing right now, that you're going through this portal to find a place of a higher calling. But at the same time, it's something very, very practical and close to home, of just a feeling of camaraderie, a feeling of belonging, and just emotionally fulfilled. And maybe it can be transitory, maybe it's temporary, but that doesn't matter. It's there and it's real. And then the other thing that helps bring you towards that is that feeling of having something to go out and do, and just a place to ironically relax. And the place to take a look at here is, instead of focusing on whatever is dangerous and almost a little too exciting sometimes, to focus on that camaraderie and being thankful for the sense of it giving you a place where you don't feel alone. And that is, a joyful thing and something to be thankful for, because there is this part of you that can feel alone even when with others. And I don't know, do you feel like when you're in the game with I assume there's teammates
Yep.
with you,
Yeah,
how do you feel when you're with them?
Sorry, say that again?
How do you feel when you're with them and just kind of forgetting about the troubles of life?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, like, that is mad. You've literally just described, like, exactly why you've put into words in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do it. Exactly why I play the sport that I play and why I love it so much. And it is about, like, it's kind of the one thing that I've found where, yeah, I love playing it. Like, I love going back repeatedly. I love, and you have that structure that you're playing this many days a week and you're doing this much training. And then I've made all of my friends through it in the later years of my life, like, and all my friends now currently come from playing with and against them in this sport. And I do understand what you're saying about the relaxing and stuff like that, and about the not having to think and stuff like that, because it, has kind of got to a point where you're not thinking, you're just playing, you're just sort of doing what comes naturally, and you're not overly analysing. It's just sort of a natural reaction, like muscle memory. And so, yeah, that was all really, all you said there really resonated with me. And yeah, I definitely feel like sport, since I picked it up quite late in life, like, kind of mid-20s. I definitely think that, yeah, it has helped me to not ever really feel alone, because, like, you just got this, like, this sort of commonality with people, and, all your friends are into the same thing, and it's just, you see them all the time, and it's real, like, no, it's great, like. And I quite liked what you said as well about trying not to focus on what makes it dangerous, because when I, like, because you get injured in sport, that's what happens. I'm currently coming back from an injury. I broke a hand playing a while back, and I know that I've been struggling with, okay, do I need to change what I'm doing, or do I want to go back, stuff like that. And I know that I do want to go back for all the reasons that you listed, but yeah, I feel like I need to not focus on, look, I got hurt, get over it. Like, once I get back playing, I will forget about it. But I think when you have an injury, you start to overthink it sometimes, and you're like, oh, will I go back, whatever. But yeah, I think if I stop focusing on the why it's dangerous, you get injured, it happens, but the rest of it is definitely worth going back. And yeah, and as you said, just not taking the good energy into it, not trying to make it more dangerous, just like, sort of, yeah, just relaxing into it, I guess, and just playing and spending that time with the people that you play with.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it's guiding you to do. And maybe that's what the injury was about, because it's guiding you to focus on the opposite of the hermit card, because it's almost saying you would be more like this hermit, and it is reversed for a reason. It's saying you would be more like this hermit if you weren't playing. And
definitely,
it's
yeah.
also saying that you're in better physical health because of the game, that it's gotten you to be more active, obviously. May I ask which hand was it that you injured?
Left.
Okay, so that would factor right into our challenge card here, which is, again, this reversed Empress right here. So the left in spirituality and metaphysics tends to represent the feminine side. And so what that injury here is representing is reminding you that you're connected to the earth, and reminding you of the frailty of it is to be a creature. And that's something that we're all very much afraid of. We all have this part of us that wants to be unbeatable and immortalic, and it's showing that through the frailty of being a human being, that's where you access your spiritual connection, and that's where you can see beyond the judgment. And that's the cliche of, oh, the universe works in mysterious ways. Of, you can't judge the injury as being good or bad or right or wrong. Sometimes we can. Sometimes we can see an injury and be like, oh, that represents you did something wrong. In this case, it's quite the opposite. It's saying that the lack of judgment is the message of this injury. And it definitely has a message, but it's not a message of punishment or shame. It's a message of continue doing what you're doing, but remember the other meanings of it. It's not just about the chaos and the excitement and the cataclysm. It's about the whole picture. And this connects right back to the previous reading. This is the same message of that suppression and that healing card, that we need the beautiful moments of peace and we need the dark times of struggle in order to make the whole sandwich of life. And as you pass through that feeling of connection and loneliness, it's right in the middle through that. That's where the emotional rebirth is, when you can just be in that sense of warmness with your friends and your teammate, and that you're all flowing together, and this is what it represents. See how this is the Ace of Cups in the outcome. You're one team, and even with the opposing team, it's one game together. It's not 1-on-1 or 2 on whatever, team on team. Each of these streams comes from the same source, and this gets really deep into that symbolism. But just like we're all one with the universe, and we're all these little different streams that are coming forth from that source back into the ocean, that great feeling of connection is not something to be taken lightly. It can seem casual when people play sports, but look at how important sports are in our societies.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, especially because no, it's definitely important, like in my life anyway, and as you mentioned, I have a whole kind of community built off the back of it, and it's huge. Like, it takes up the majority of my life. So yeah, for me, it's a big part of my life.
So if you want, we can move on. I have a suggestion of what we could do next. We could take that same intention that we saw, this deeper meaning of the sports, and apply it to directly what we're doing now. What the deeper meaning and lesson is of what you're doing with your media, of the podcast, the interviews, and the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Because you've had your channel for a while now, right?
Yeah, I've had my YouTube channel for 10 years, must be 10 years. But I only went full-time as a content creator a year and a bit ago. Yeah.
So we talked a lot about how strong your thoughts and your mental energy is, and we're seeing that one of the reasons you're so attracted to being a content creator is it helps you get out of your mind. And actually, it is similar to the sports, so it's different at the same time, and we can see more nuance and details as we get into it. But ultimately, just to put it simply, it's very similar reasons that you go into content creation and, being a personality and engaging with these different people through the story time is you're seeking something, whether it's in the sports, whether it's in your channel and talking to people. You're looking for something, but you don't always quite know what it is. It's a feeling of being drawn to something, and I picture it as it's just a random example, but it comes to my mind a lot in the Old Testament. And I'm not a Christian or religious person, but I study mythology. In the Old Testament, when the Jews were searching through the desert with Moses, God would appear to them as a column of light, and that light was in the distance. And so they would always be following it, but they weren't quite sure where it was leading them. And it would always go further and further, and they never quite reached it. And this is the same card that came up for the previous reading. You can see this character has their staff, and they're missing that one cup. And it is a reverse card showing that it's not fully active or aware in your life. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all have reverse cards. And so this is a drive that brings you forth. And I could simplify it and say it's a spiritual drive, but what does that mean? Spirituality to means you're searching for that connection. You found it in different ways in sports, and you're still continuing to search for that in your YouTube and in your podcast. And it's okay that it's not a complete intention of I want to find this. In fact, that's what makes it more beautiful, is if it's a feeling and this desire, because it is an artistic or creative pursuit, not in the same way we traditionally think of it as a painter, but obviously you do need creativity and imagination in order to have a YouTube channel and to connect with people and to share a side of yourself out there with people. And that creative pursuit, one of the things that you're seeking is to be able to connect with people on an equal level, not to be someone who's out there as a distant personality in social media, as a lot of people tend to have this kind of false persona. You're trying to connect with people on this equal level of seeing them eye to eye. And that's a continuing, I wouldn't say struggle, but it's a continuing theme that you're aiming for, of seeing eye to eye. And like you said when we first met, connecting with someone over drinks at the pub. As you can see, literally, that's what's happening in this card.
Yeah, I had described the Storytime podcast as, imagine we're having a chat in a pub. That's how I always describe it to people. That's where I got the idea, is because Irish people love to tell stories in pubs, and I was like, everyone in the world has at least one story, and even if they don't think they have a story, they do, because you put a pint in their hand in the pub and they'll tell it. And so that was where the Storytime podcast idea came from. That idea.
The other side of it, though, and it's in the two sides of your mind. One side of it is in the pub, coming at it from the more adult and grown through life and have all these stories that we connect. But the other side of it, on the other side of your mind, is the childlike side. So you can see, instead of the two adults sharing the pub there, this is a parental figure sharing this cup of flowers with the child. So that's the other side of story time, is that every little kid is wondrous about stories and expands their imagination through stories. We learn about archetypes, we learn about what the world is, what's meaningful, what it means to be a hero, what it means to learn from our experiences, because every single story has some sort of moral to it, even if it may be hidden. Everybody is learning. And one thing that my spiritual friend that I mentioned in the episode says, that every single story is a redemption story. And that connects with me so deeply, because as we mentioned, there is this difficulty that we're all trying to overcome. And that's in your cards as the suppression and the other ones of these things from the past, which on one hand want to be let go of, on one hand can't be let go of, on one hand just want to stay buried. And that's okay. And through this, what is interesting about this journey with the podcast and the YouTube is that it feels like you're on the edge of your seat, always about to enter into something. And that's this card here. Instead of it being the 10 of Cups, like the Harmony card in the other reading, this is the 9 of Cups. And so you can see that this character has gotten a lot of their wishes. This is called the Wish card in the tarot, but is still waiting for that final one, much like that other card who is seeking for something. This is what we do, any sort of thing, emotional fulfillment. That one of these great wisdoms that I've remembered over the years from a motivational speaker is we grow from two things, people and projects. Obviously this has both for you, that engaging in this project with yourself is an artistic reflection of yourself and brings forth growth. But also engaging with the people, whether it be people you're interviewing or fans, it doesn't matter. This is also helping you to access that inner child that we mentioned before, and that appears again right here as the Page of Cups. See, he's holding the cup again. Again, in the readings about your journey as a person, you had a lot of mental energy. In the channel and in the podcast here, we have a lot of emotional energy, almost like you've poured your emotions into it, and that's good. That we need a place for that. It's the cup is a receptacle for our emotions and our feeling, and ultimately, what is emotion and feeling of what we call in our culture the soul? The soul is something we can't really put a handle on, put a word on, and so part of the advice for you is you have so much emotional energy riding on this and residing in this, and you put so much of yourself into it. Eventually, there is going to be more earth energy, which means money coming through, and that is going to be the continuing challenge of balancing that aspect in your life. And literally, that's the card right here. This is the two coins that this character is holding, and the topsy-turvy sea behind him. I'm sure we can all identify with this balance of, it's hard to keep these two things rolling around, and we have to balance moving back and forth like the stormy seas are. And you can see he's also playful, though. This is an upright card showing that it's okay to have this dance. It can be difficult at times. It's okay. Don't focus on the dance as much, because that's already natural to you. Let it happen. Focus on that connection between two people. And even though you may get however many thousand views, it's still that connection between you and one other person. And that's where the magic is. And you know it in your heart, but it's reminding you to put that focus intentionally back in going forward. It's not calling you out for it, it's just reminding you.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
And letting the randomness of the platforms, it's hard to deal with. I've been trying to be a content creator for a long time. I just straight up will quit, and this is part of my intention being here, is I want to put myself into it, like you have with these cups cards, of pouring your emotions into it. And that's how you got to do it. It has to be what I would call an emotional motivator. And we always need motivation to do this, because it's not easy to be a content creator and put yourself out there. It's really difficult, especially at the beginning. And so now that you can focus back in and have the opportunity, focus back in on that one-on-one connection. And remember, you're talking to one individual 1,000+ times, which is kind of a trippy idea. Then giving it up and putting all this focus into it, letting your mind play its games, and then just give it up. It's not up to you anymore. That's the difficult thing about surrender. You can pour your heart into it. You can deliberate over the money aspect. You can carry all these thoughts around, but at the end of the day, it's a connection between two people, and you surrender that to the universe and let go of control.
That makes a lot of sense. I think that's a good message as well, and a good thing to remind ourselves.
Yeah, definitely, because it is universal. It's something that is specifically for your the work that you're doing, but it's something that we can all listen to.
Definitely.
Right, and we can talk about something else or end there, whichever you want to do.
Yeah,
if there's anything else you want to talk about.
Well, I've definitely learned loads. I think a lot of what you said really resonated with me. It all made a lot of sense, and I really enjoyed that. So thank you so much for doing my reading.
Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
We had a few more people join over the course of it, so would you like to just remind everyone where to find you?
Yeah, and I am Singe Saber, but under tarot readings I go by Saber Tarot, and you can find me on YouTube, on Instagram, And also you can email me at sabertarot@gmail.com. If you mention Claire and Storytime, then you can get a 50% discount, and I'm doing a special of $20 readings US.
Yeah, so that's the Storytime podcast. We've done a podcast recording just before we hopped on this live, and that's going to be up in a few weeks, where Saber tells about his sort of supernatural kind of spiritual experiences. So that's going to be a really good episode. But yeah, I will add in all your links so people can go find you. And thank you so much for doing that with me. I really enjoyed that. And I did really feel like it was very accurate to me, and I recognised a lot of me in what you were saying. And yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Claire. I appreciate it.
No worries. Alright, thank you guys as well for joining. And we're going to hop off, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm going to be streaming every day this week on the path to affiliate. Thanks again, Sing.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.